Close your eyes for a second. I promise it's just a second. It won't hurt. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And remember. Remember a time when you were little. A time before the pressures of the world affected you. A time when you didn't have to act a certain way to be accepted by family or play some kind of game to be welcomed by your peers. A time when you didn't have to worry about work or school. A time when you just didn't have the demands and the pressures that come inevitably to life. Remember that time, and then remember running to someone you loved, someone you hadn't seen in a while, maybe a grandma or a grandpa. And remember running with a full sprint, with your arms wide open, totally immersed in the simple joy of seeing them. You can open your eyes. And even if you couldn't remember that far back, we've all seen it, right? We've all seen it. The way a little one can throw themselves into the embrace of a loved one. But life takes that from us way too young. Life moves in and life makes its demands. My child arrived the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking before I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, "I'm going to be like you, Dad." My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, "Thanks for the ball, Dad. Come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw?" I said, "Not today. I got a lot to do." He said, "That's okay." And he walked away, but his smile never dimmed. It said, "I'm going to be like him." Well, he came home from college just the other day, so much like a man, I just had to say, "Son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?" But he shook his head and said with a smile, "What I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later. Can I have them, please?" I've long since retired. My son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, "I'd like to see you, if you don't mind." He said, "I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. But the new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you, Dad." And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. The words of Harry Chapin, words that reflect how life can steal us away from each other and how we unwittingly teach our young at times that the world outside the house is the really important world. It's more important than relationships, more important than taking time to throw a ball with the kids, more important than taking time to stop. Taking that chance to throw our arms wide open and embrace that person in front of us we love. The chance to let them know how we feel, how much we care for them. Forgetting the fact that there are no guarantees, none, that they'll be there to hug tomorrow. Jesus was a big deal, you know? And I think his disciples, they could get caught up in that. Imagine being a disciple for a guy who could just show up in a town and thousands of people would come running. Being a disciple for a guy like that had to kind of make you feel important too. And now kids want to see him, touch him, take up his time. Jesus didn't have time for stuff like that. Kids were truly second-class citizens in that society. They had no standing, no importance. They were preferably seen and not heard. And they shouldn't be sapping up the time of somebody so special. Except Jesus turns the whole thing on its head. He does have time. He says they are what's important. Let them come, he says. And then he tells the disciples and all those in earshot, behold your teachers. Behold your teachers. If you do not accept the kingdom of God like a little child, you ain't getting in. Now, our tendency as people who worry about things like going to hell forever is to get a bit frightened when we hear words like this. But Jesus isn't trying to be frightening. Jesus isn't saying, get ready for hell, all you grown-ups. No, he's saying, stop living in it. Stop living life in a way that is bound to drag you down. Remember the kingdom of God? Jesus said the kingdom of God is near you, among you, within you. Jesus didn't come preaching a kingdom we all just have to wait for. He came preaching and teaching and feeding and healing and breaking down all the barriers so that the love of God would be revealed among us now. Right now. In the present. A present reality. What he's saying, though, is this. To really get there, we got to throw our arms open, throw ourselves into his embrace, into an embrace of living life as he taught us to live. Like a little, trusting child. Or like it says in another song, Red Rain by Peter Gabriel, I come to you, defenses down, with the trust of a child. Jesus is teaching us the greatest path to joy. Now don't miss that. Jesus is teaching us the greatest path to joy. And the path of bringing the most joy to others. In many ways, our call as Christ followers is to make Jesus real in this world, to manifest Jesus. And the way we do that is by living in his teachings. It isn't just saying, I believe, and singing a hymn, and then thinking about how great heaven is. If that's all we're doing, that's empty. If that's all we're doing, that is empty, and it allows the world to be a world where Jesus is not present. See, our call is to make Jesus present, and we do that by living his teaching and recognizing that every person, even the ones we don't like, every person in front of us is Christ, and our call is to make Christ present to them by living like Jesus for them. And the only way to do that, the only way is to keep the pressures of the world in their place. To keep them in their place and instead live the joy of Jesus. Live out that kingdom of God. I know we don't get to escape those pressures. I succumb to them all of the time too. But what we need to do is strive to keep them in their place by remembering what is really important. To come to Jesus running, defenses down, with the trust of a child.